Nicole Kidman has filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 19 years of marriage. The court papers show the actress will remain the primary caregiver of the couple's teenage daughters.
He's been dodging questions about her for at least 2 months. There was also this incident where somebody asks about her love scenes and he abruptly ends the interview and you could tell that he's angry.
And then what do you know? There are these videos that come to light that seem to show him being flirty with this Maggie woman on stage, who again, like we said, is only 25 years old, and changing the lyrics of songs, a song, The Fighter, that he wrote for Nicole Kidman, changing the lyrics, that were about her to something that was about Maggie.
Stop the presses. The biggest Hollywood lie just crashed and burned. When news dropped that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban ended their 19-year marriage, the entire globe gasped. This was the couple, the one everyone swore would defy the odds and last forever. But now, the shocking truth is out. At the ripe old age of 58, Nicole finally confessed why her fairy tale totally imploded. And her confession is way darker than any tabloid headline could hint at. When the devastating news dropped that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were finally ending their 19-year marriage, it didn't just break the internet, it detonated a shockwave worldwide. They were the celebrity pair that every single person was convinced would last for all eternity. But now, at the ripe old age of 58, Nicole has chillingly confessed the real reason their perfect facade crumbled down. And her words exposed a painful reality that tears right through the silly headlines. This is the truth behind how their love story began. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's ridiculous story started like a scene lifted directly from a cheesy Hollywood script, but somehow, it oozed the desperate sincerity of two globally famous people finally crossing paths at a serendipitous moment. Back in the ancient year of January 2005, both ridiculously famous Australians were the honored guests at the Good Day USA Gala in glamorous Los Angeles. Nicole, already one of the most bankable and recognized actresses on the planet, and Keith, a hot country music star on the rise, were shamelessly introduced at the star-studded event. For the heartbroken fans looking back now, it truly seems like fate just cruelly shoved them into the same room that fateful evening. Nicole later admitted that she felt a fiery instant connection. There was an intense attraction that immediately stirred her soul. But Keith played it cool and seemed suspiciously reserved. In fact, after that initial awkward meeting, agonizing months went by before he finally deigned to reach out. Nicole herself once revealed that she genuinely thought he wasn't interested, while she was already nursing a devastatingly quiet crush. This painful, excruciating waiting period made their eventual, passionate connection feel like a glorious slow burn, a passionate, epic romance that absolutely needed time before it could truly burst into flames. When Keith finally decided to make his grand theatrical move, he ensured it would be utterly unforgettable. Nicole has repeatedly and often tearfully recalled the precise, cinematic moment that forever sealed her passionate feelings for the superstar. On her private birthday, while she was sadly alone in freezing New York City, Keith pulled the most dramatic move and surprised her by appearing at her lavish apartment door at exactly 5 in the chilly morning. He stood there holding a perfect bouquet of delicate gardenias, a flower that suspiciously symbolizes purity and unending love. For Nicole, that singular, unforgettable moment instantly swept away any final hesitation she harbored. In her exact iconic words, she was a goner. Yet, even in those fragile early days of nauseating joy, the first gigantic challenge violently surfaced. Only a few pathetic months after their lavish wedding, Keith had to shamefully enter rehab to battle his disgusting, long-running struggle with substance abuse. It was a massive turning point that should have absolutely shattered the perfect facade they were selling. Instead, a delusional Nicole stood firmly by her man's side, heroically choosing unshakable loyalty and ridiculous support over finally running far, far away. That bizarre decision gave a strange, almost terrifying strength to their fragile bond, and truly demonstrated the unbelievable depth of her crazy commitment. They had bravely faced down the terrifying demons of addiction, plus the heavy soul-crushing gaze of public expectation, so ridiculously early in their journey. But these supposed triumphs of love were actually silent. ticking time bombs. Horrifying warnings of far worse battles yet to come, building family, career, and shared dreams. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's manufactured love story was more than just a predictable Hollywood romance. It was a deeply complex partnership that carried both the annoying glow of red carpet moments and the crippling weight of private, ugly struggles. When they shockingly married, Nicole was already a beleaguered mother to Isabella and Connor, the poor children she had adopted with her bizarre ex, Tom Cruise. Starting this new, risky chapter with Keith gave her the dramatic chance to desperately expand her family and rediscover that sickening feeling of home she had always longed for. In the chaotic year of 2008, they welcomed their very first biological daughter together, Sunday Rose. And 2 years later, their second daughter, Faith Margaret, was finally born. With a total of 4 children between them, the Kidman Urban household quickly became a massive, messy blended family full of chaotic energy, overflowing love, and overwhelming responsibility. Nicole constantly spoke of motherhood as her only anchor, ridiculously calling it the only role that truly grounded her despite her annoying international fame. She proudly embraced becoming a mother again later in her demanding life, cherishing the quiet joy and forced maturity it supposedly brought. Keith pathetically echoed these same sentiments through his catchy music, writing songs that carried subtle, creepy tributes to Nicole and their unsuspecting daughters, constantly reminding fans that beneath his superstar fame, he was also just a devoted husband and the boring father. But right alongside their exhausting family life, both careers continued their upward climb. Nicole, already one of Hollywood's most respected and decorated actresses, entered a bold new era in her stressful profession. She took on complicated, complex roles that truly showcased her impressive range, from Rabbit Hole, which earned her yet another coveted Academy Award nomination, to Big Little Lies, which triumphantly brought her Golden Globe and Emmy wins. With each powerful role, she fiercely deepened her reputation not only as a bankable movie star, but also as a total powerhouse in television, proving her unbelievable ability to dramatically adapt to changing entertainment landscapes. Keith, meanwhile, wasn't exactly sitting around. He was ruthlessly cementing his place as one of the country music scene's biggest, most annoying names. His albums consistently topped charts, his ridiculously massive tours sold out stadium after stadium, and his theatrical, self-congratulatory performances earned him a terrifying mountain of Grammys and countless Country Music Association awards. Beyond his screeching music, he arrogantly expanded into television as a judge on American Idol, thrusting his sickeningly fake charm onto an even broader, unsuspecting audience. His saccharine songs always reflected his highly manicured personal experiences, complete with cringe-worthy lyrics and specific dedications that always kept Nicole dead center in his desperate artistry. Their sickening successes, while initially thrilling, brought the inevitable challenge of constant distance. Nicole's countless film shoots shamelessly dragged her abroad for endless months at a time. London, Australia, and various random US locations, while Keith's endless tours kept him constantly on the lonely road. They desperately tried to bridge the impossible gap through scheduled video calls, frantic letters, and shamefully flying across the entire world for hilariously short reunions. They both ridiculously spoke about making family time sacred, and whenever possible, they made sure their poor, dragged-along daughters traveled with them or carved out tiny stretches of supposedly uninterrupted time together at home. Still, the brutal separation was an ugly shadow that tragically never truly disappeared. In public, the desperate couple radiated an aura of unearned love and forced loyalty. They were constantly seen grasping hands on red carpets, awkwardly whispering secrets to one another during tedious award ceremonies, or exchanging manufactured warm glances that the hungry cameras eagerly devoured. Nicole routinely praised Keith in every single interview, calling him her deep, deep love, and crediting their sham marriage as the best thing that ever happened to her miserable life. Keith fully reciprocated with over-the-top, heartfelt tributes and songs that fully reflected his supposed gratitude for her monumental presence in his famous life. To fans and the gullible media, they truly seemed to embody a rare kind of manufactured, enduring Hollywood romance. Yet underneath all the blinding glamour, their toxic challenges violently persisted. Keith's crippling struggle with substance abuse had been a draining battle even before their wedding, and only months after they married, he pathetically checked himself straight into rehab. Nicole's choice to stand by him, offering sickeningly unwavering support, became the pathetic, defining chapter in their terrible relationship. Keith later confessed he nearly blew the marriage during this crucial time, finally acknowledging how terrifyingly close they came to losing literally everything. Their supposed resilience during that dark period became part of their ridiculous legacy as a couple, proving that love and loyalty could sometimes survive even the harshest, most manufactured storms. They built a beautiful, glittering family and shamefully achieved truly extraordinary success. But the terrifying, quiet cracks in their flimsy foundation began to viciously widen. What appeared absolutely perfect to the entire unsuspecting world was, in the horrifying reality, far more dangerously fragile than anyone knew. Eventually, those nasty cracks became utterly impossible to ignore anymore. The suffocating distance between them grew, not just in boring miles, but cruelly in their emotions. And the picture-perfect life they had obsessively built together started to suddenly shift in shocking ways neither could entirely control or stop. When love doesn't solve everything. For years, the incredibly talented Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban magically managed to frantically weave their obscenely demanding careers into the flimsy, unraveling fabric of their public marriage. They constantly spoke about pathetically making time for one another, despite the impossible challenges of chaotic Hollywood schedules and grueling international tours. But over this agonizing time, the ugly cracks violently began to show. Nicole maniacally continued to take on colossal acting projects that selfishly required her to be away for ridiculously long stretches, including filming overseas in terrible places like London for Practical Magic 2. Meanwhile, Keith was miserably committed to his utterly endless High and Alive world tour, traveling frantically from city to city and country to country. The painful separations grew agonizingly longer and more depressingly frequent, until the shocking time they spent apart seemed to totally outweigh the measly time they actually spent together. Hints of their colossal troubles shamefully spilled into the public eye in subtle but easily noticeable ways. Hungry fans immediately caught on when Keith abruptly and rudely ended a boring radio interview after being asked about Nicole, savagely hanging up before the painful conversation could even continue. On social media, nauseating anniversary posts that once overflowed with overly affectionate tributes became strangely shorter, far more distant, or entirely missing altogether. In interviews, simple questions about their crumbling relationship seemed to make Keith visibly uncomfortable, as if he desperately wanted to avoid peeling back the ugly, peeling layers of a story that was actively unraveling behind the closed-off scenes. For a celebrity couple that had once been so sickeningly open and publicly displaying their fake affection and shallow love, the sudden silence spoke volumes. The heartbreaking physical separation and the crushing absence of warmth in their required public moments only brutally deepened the growing sense that something truly irreversible had terrifyingly shifted between them. Nicole, who had always foolishly believed in blindly standing by her famous husband no matter what, was suddenly left emotionally grappling with a devastating feeling of abandonment. The high-stakes marriage that once seemed dramatically strong enough to withstand both addiction, massive distance, and blinding fame was rapidly faltering in painful ways that could clearly no longer be desperately hidden. The insane, desperate love was still physically there, but shocking everyone, love alone was officially no longer enough to magically keep them tethered together. Let's now drop the brutal truth bomb about the awful moment when she finally realized things had shifted far beyond any possible repair. The breaking point. By the early cruel summer of 2025, Keith Urban had heartlessly moved into his own bachelor pad, cowardly leaving Nicole Kidman alone in their massive family home with only their daughters for comfort. To the clueless outside world, it looked tragically like just another predictable phase of frantic, busy schedules and exhausting career obligations. But the shadowy insiders knew it was something far, far deeper, a deliberate, calculated step away. Nicole, still pathetically clinging to the insane hope of repairing the gaping cracks, desperately tried to salvage the wreckage of what they once had. She ridiculously leaned into family life, frantically reached for the lost connection they once shared. and naively believed their sacred bond could withstand yet another inevitable storm. But those desperate efforts were met with only cold, cruel distance. Sources incredibly close to her shockingly revealed that she was completely blindsided by how quickly Keith began to establish his totally new, separate reality, one that tragically didn't revolve around their public marriage anymore. For Nicole, it wasn't merely about living separately. It was about the crushing realization of what the shocking choice symbolized. It was the terrifying beginning of the end, and deep down, she instantly knew it. The truly final, devastating blow came in late September 2025. On September 30th, a heartbroken Nicole officially filed for divorce after an iconic 19 years of marriage, citing the generic, boring reason of irreconcilable differences. The swift, brutal move utterly shocked fans who had always foolishly seen them as one of Hollywood's most miraculously resilient couples. A perfect pair who had miraculously survived ugly addiction battles, the crippling pressures of ridiculous fame, and years of agonizing distance. Yet, behind their gleaming, polished public image, the fragile marriage had become something neither of them could miserably hold on to any longer. Divorce papers were finally signed, but there were still many painful public things left to settle. The legal landscape and custody arrangements, the depressing legal chapter of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's humiliating separation, began to dramatically take shape in late September 2025. On the bland surface, the court documents presented a painfully familiar phrase: irreconcilable differences. It is the standard, boring wording for countless generic celebrity divorces, chosen as much for maximum privacy as for simple simplicity. But for anyone who had tragically followed their entire journey, the sickeningly romantic candlelit wedding in Sydney, the intense, shared battles, the picture-perfect family they proudly built together, it was sickeningly clear that the pathetic phrase tragically concealed much far deeper wounds. Central to the scandalous divorce filing were the couple's two poor teenage daughters, Sunday, now a dramatic 17, and Faith, now a rebellious 14. According to new explosive reports, Kidman is officially expected to be named the primary residential parent, a crucial role she has quietly held during much of their turbulent marriage, while constantly balancing crazy film shoots and chaotic motherhood. The finalized custody agreement coldly outlines that the sad children will spend approximately 306 days of the year with her, while a miserable Urban will only have around 59 days. This shocking distribution officially reflects not only the crippling practical demands of their ridiculous careers, but also the sad, cold reality of where the poor children's stability was clearly always rooted, with Nicole. Still, seeing such awful numbers, once brutally reduced to clinical paper, tragically highlights the stark, cruel division of a once thriving family that used to exist under one perfect roof. Alongside the messy custody drama, the disgusting division of assets and all their financial matters has shamefully become another horrible layer of this exhausting process. Both Kidman and Urban have enjoyed absolutely extraordinary successful careers, and with that comes a ridiculous amount of multiple properties scattered across the entire globe, ranging from Nashville to Sydney, and from Beverly Hills to the concrete jungle of New York. These ridiculously huge homes once falsely represented their naive shared dreams, but in the hostile legal negotiations they have quickly become nothing but cold, expensive assets to divide. New reports shockingly suggest that the couple has wisely agreed to totally forgo spousal support, brazenly signaling that both are perfectly financially independent and are completely willing to walk away without the ugly complications of alimony demands. The nasty finer details of the property division dramatically remain ongoing, but the chilling framework is now brutally clear. Their intertwined lives, once ridiculously fused at every single level, are now being violently separated piece by piece. The sterile legal terms only coldly lay out what their superficial lives will look like post-marriage, but it's what she dramatically revealed about why she desperately needed to take these final, fatal steps that completely changes everything we thought we knew. What Nicole Kidman has admitted. Nicole Kidman's raw, painful admissions in the tragic wake of her messy divorce from Keith Urban have suddenly peeled back the highly polished exterior of their seemingly perfect marriage. finally revealing the crushing vulnerability and raw, desperate honesty of a powerful woman who has miserably endured both love's impossible heights and heartbreaking, crushing depths. For years, the foolish public only saw a staged picture of harmony. Two globally admired wealthy Australians raising a beautiful family, while balancing their glittery, exhausting careers. But behind those closed, silent doors, Nicole now chillingly admits, the painful cracks had been maliciously widening long before the final, brutal separation. One of the most absolutely striking revelations is her deep, paralyzing sense of betrayal. This devastating feeling, as she has whispered through close confidants, does not stem solely from Keith's highly specific actions, but from how certain choices were made. Perhaps shockingly abruptly, perhaps without the basic openness she rightfully expected from a partner of nearly 2 decades. The shocking decision to suddenly live apart, for instance, reportedly blindsided her completely. To Nicole, the brutal betrayal was not merely in the separation itself, but in the shocking erosion of the trust and basic communication that once anchored their entire bond. She has also spoken of irreconcilable differences, with far more crushing weight than the dry, formal legal documents ever suggested. For her, these cruel differences were not simply abstract. They were about fundamental respect, crucial emotional support, and basic safety, the sacred pillars of any truly lasting, worthwhile marriage. Love, no matter how deep, could not possibly survive without those sacred foundations. In finally recognizing this brutal truth, Nicole is painfully admitting something many of us foolishly hesitate to whisper out loud: that love alone simply cannot repair what is fundamentally and tragically broken. Timing, too, has played a massive, cruel role in her sudden, dramatic willingness to speak so directly. Now, at a powerful 58, Nicole is absolutely no longer the naive young star tragically navigating Hollywood's gross pressures, or the desperate newlywed tragically protecting a fragile, flimsy union. She's now more seasoned, sickeningly grounded, and finally empowered. This crucial maturity shamefully allows her to voice the harsh truths she may have cowardly swallowed earlier, to finally admit exactly where the marriage completely fell short, and to cruelly prioritize her own well-being and that of her children above the stupid appearances. Still, her dramatic admissions are not without a sickening sense of humility. Nicole has reportedly and tearfully acknowledged her own role, weakly hinting at the toxic complexities of a marriage brutally lived under the blinding spotlight. Yet, what stands out most is her sharp, cold clarity about unmet needs. Those moments when she felt utterly unheard, or times when her raw emotional reality was shamelessly minimized. This intense self-reflection ruthlessly underscores her core belief that marriages only truly thrive not on fake perfection, but on crucial mutual recognition and basic respect. From her personal perspective, the greatest, most powerful lesson lies in courageously choosing authenticity over facade. Nicole has clearly indicated that, at this pivotal stage of her exhausting life, she values honesty and painful autonomy above pathetically maintaining the grotesque image of a flawless partnership. Her heartbreaking admissions are less about pathetic blame and much more about the ugly truth. Her unvarnished truth, fearlessly spoken without any fear of judgment. Her insane courage in saying what many cowards might keep tragically private completely reframes her entire narrative. Rather than being shamefully defined by the divorce, she is now powerfully defining it on her own terms, beautifully offering a perspective of personal growth, painful learning, and hard-won resilience. She's spoken openly now. But what happens next will finally show whether all this uncomfortable truth leads to beautiful healing, radical redefinition, or something entirely terrifying and different. What's next for Nicole and Keith? Nicole Kidman's incredible story absolutely does not end with a boring set of divorce papers. If anything, what immediately comes next may powerfully define her more than the pointless 19 years she tragically wasted with Keith Urban. In the immediate, messy aftermath of the shocking split, Nicole is said to be desperately leaning on her loyal sister, Antonia, who has long been her silent anchor during all these turbulent times. Family remains her fierce focus, especially her poor daughters, Sunday and Faith. Sources close to her say that her main priority now is to immediately provide them with total stability. unconditional love, and a crucial sense of safety, even as their family structure cruelly changes forever. Professionally, Nicole's future holds just as much frantic intrigue. At a powerful 58 with countless stupid accolades behind her, she may now finally take a far more selective approach to her exhausting work. Shadowy insiders desperately suggest she might sickeningly lean toward projects that feel deeply personal or unnecessarily introspective. Cheesy stories that reflect resilience, wicked independence, and total transformation. Fans and annoying critics alike will likely look for shocking connections between her ever-evolving career choices and the crushing truths she has recently dramatically shared. Just as her pathetic past experiences once influenced the sickening authenticity she brought to every role, this awful new chapter may only cruelly deepen her performances in ways that resonate even more powerfully and terrifyingly. On the practical, boring side, agonizing co-parenting will tragically shape her daily life. With the precious primary custody of Sunday and Faith, Nicole's overscheduled routine will be the rigid anchor point for the entire family's suffocating routine. Keith, though pathetically allotted far fewer days under the cruel custody arrangement, will still desperately try to play a role. And the miserable logistics of two parents with global careers will require absolutely careful coordination. Travel, major holidays, and future milestones will now heartbreakingly involve cold negotiations rather than sweet shared decisions. A harsh, painful reality both must miserably adjust to. As with any chaotic, high-profile split, public perception constantly hovers over their next stupid moves, while neither Nicole nor Keith has made a full, public, dramatic statement. The high possibility of Nicole dramatically opening up in a thoughtful, devastating interview looms large. If she does, her shocking words will absolutely carry massive weight, not as mere gossip, but as part of her lasting, dramatic legacy. She has long been sickeningly admired for her elegance and fake candor. Now, her courage to speak truthfully about this crushing heartbreak and resilience could totally redefine her boring public image in a way that inspires us all. Beyond her career and custody chaos, the deeply personal side of Nicole's painful journey is perhaps the most ridiculously significant. Divorce at any age forces a painful reinvention, but at this late stage of life, it may also offer her unexpected freedom. Nicole may channel her anxious energy into setting crucial, firmer boundaries, desperately deepening her few personal connections, or bravely exploring new creative and possibly romantic possibilities. Some delusional sources still speculate that reconciliation with Keith tragically remains a distant, pathetic possibility. Life phases can shift perspectives, but many of us see this as a final, definitive, beautiful close. For Keith, the path forward is pathetically quieter, at least for now. His career desperately continues, but burning questions about how he shamefully navigates fatherhood, his tenuous sobriety, and lonely independence without Nicole will inevitably, constantly surface. The stark contrast between their public responses, her quiet openness versus his dramatic, obvious silence, will keep the hungry world watching. What are your honest thoughts on Nicole Kidman's shocking admission? Was their doomed split destined? Or could love truly have saved it? Share your thoughts in the comments.